Today I'm going to give you a couple of reasons on why I think you're really going to like the Salomon Pulsar Trail Pro, and also a couple reasons why you might not. So stick around. What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. First, before we get into it though, I do need to let you know that Salomon did send the Pulsar Trail Pro to me to review. They're not going to preview this ahead of time, not going to tell me what to say. I'm going to speak the honest truth just like I always do. So with that out of the way, let's get to the details. As always, we're going to start out talking about some stats of the Salomon Pulsar Trail Pro. First off, it is a neutral trail running shoe, more for possibly for those racing scenarios, which we'll get to here in just a moment. But yeah, there's a little bit of twist to it. It does have a little bit of rigidity to it as well because of the TPU fork, the energy blade, which we'll talk about in more detail coming up. But it is a 33 millimeter stack height in the rear, 27 millimeter in the front for a 6 millimeter drop. The lugs, 3.5 millimeters, not anything crazy, but they are a good design, pretty aggressive. We'll get to more of that as well. As we're going through the video, if you find any of it helpful, informative, you're learning something, I would really appreciate if you would scroll down, click the thumbs up, give the video a like. It helps out tremendously, and that would just be really cool. So thank you. And for the weight of the Pulsar Trail Pro, it's really good. This is a men's size 11. It fits my foot true to size, just like all the other shoes, but the weight, threw it on the scale, men's size 11, weighed in at 9.9 ounces or 282 grams. So a really good weight for a trail shoe with a 33 millimeter stack height in the rear. So, you know, there's a fair amount of cushioning in the shoe, but it's still a really good weight, especially in my size. That's just, yeah, I'm excited about the weight and it felt good underfoot. So I've got a little over 58 miles on the Pulsar Trail Pros now, right out of the box. I took them to a race just last weekend, the Fort Frenzy 12-hour, and I wore them for the entire race. I don't recommend wearing a new pair of shoes for that you've never worn before in a race, but I did it and it worked out pretty well with a couple of caveats, which I'll be sure to mention. But yeah, 58 miles, so really good test in these. That single track trail with about, you know, a little over 7,000 feet of vert for those 58 miles. So it was a good test. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the upper of the Pulsar Trail Pro. It is a single layer synthetic upper. It is very, very durable feeling. Just to the touch, it feels more coarse than normal. Like it's not a jacquard mesh upper. It almost feels like a ripstop fabric, and it feels like it's gonna be quite durable. You know, I had a couple of sticks poke my foot during the run. I jammed my toe several times on rocks, and there's no, you know, scuffs or scrapes or pokes in the upper fabric. So I think it's gonna last quite a while in that regard for durability. You know, I just mentioned it, let's go ahead and talk about it. The toe guard on this thing is awesome. I hit my toe really hard several times and I don't have a black toenail. You know, of course it was uncomfortable, but it didn't hurt. So this toe guard is nice. It's gonna keep your toes safe on those long runs where your feet might get fatigued and you're not picking them up as much and you might be more apt to trip just a little bit. So as you can see right away, this is a mono piece upper. It's one piece, the entire thing, including the tongue. It is all part of that upper. So as you pull the quick lace system, which is pretty nice on these, cinch those up. If you have a not a very voluminous foot like my foot, it's kind of just average size. The fabric does kind of bunch underneath of the other side of the upper just a little bit. It was still fairly comfortable. You know, it wasn't really uncomfortable per se. There's other shoes that have been more comfortable, but it worked, and it worked fine for 58 miles, and I didn't have any issues there. The tongue, since we just mentioned it, it is fairly, you know, there is a little bit of cushioning to it, but honestly, I'd like to see just a little bit more. When really cinching down that quick lace system, I did feel it across the top of my foot, so much so that I actually had to kind of loosen it just a little bit more than I would have liked. But you know, if I had pre-taped that area, it might have worked, but it could be a little bit thicker and I might like to see a little more comfort in that regard. The lace garage though for that quick lace system works really well. It tucks in nicely. It's up out of the way of the laces, which is nice with these. It's easier to get it in and out. Another neat thing about the upper is it has this anti-debris collar, so it almost fits your foot snugly, somewhat like a gaiter, and it does help to keep out some bigger rocks. I did find that I did have a couple of smaller pieces get in the shoe. It's gonna happen, it's a trail shoe, but it did help a lot in keeping a lot of the other stuff out. So that's a really nice thing. As far as the heel cup goes of the Pulsar Trail Pro, it's pretty bare bones. This is definitely more of a racing shoe. It's stripped down version of the Pulsar Trail. If you want to see the Pulsar Trail review, probably my favorite trail shoe of all time, top right corner, take a look at that review. I love it. This is not that shoe. It's a very good shoe, but it's not as plush. And it's evident in the heel cup. You can see there's just a little bumper in the heel that keeps your foot, gives it a little bit of comfort. There really is no padding in the very back of the heel. And so going into a race that was 12 hours, I'd never worn the shoe before, no padding back there in the heel cup, I did actually pre-tape the heel of my foot just to be safe, and there was never an issue. I really don't think it would have been an issue had I even not pre-taped. So the only spot that I really had an issue with the whole 12 hours of the race with the Pulsar Trail Pro was the medial arch. It felt just a little bit narrow. I actually had to stop. I did put some tape on the medial arch of my foot. And then after I did that, it eliminated that hot spot. It felt fine for the rest of the race. So just keep in mind, it is a little bit more narrow than maybe even the Pulsar Trail. But the toe box itself felt very accommodating. It felt, pretty good size for me. Again, I don't have a wide foot. It's just an average size foot, but it fit my foot really well, and I had plenty of room for the toes to splay. Never once had any kind of discomfort in that area throughout the whole 12 hours of that run. So I was very pleased with the overall fit of the Salomon Pulsar Trail Pro. Overall, pretty comfortable. One other spot that was not great on this, so that bumper, the little padding bumper I call it on the heel cup, it extends right to about right here. And this outer spot, it put a little bit of pressure on the outside of the foot. Again, I got used to it on the run. It didn't really cause any issues, but when I took the shoes off after 12 hours, you could see there was a red spot on my foot where that was for sure. Definitely some hot spots, but it didn't turn into a blister. It really didn't cause any raw or chafing of the foot. It was just a little bit uncomfortable. The breathability of the upper is pretty good. So I'm a sweaty runner. My feet always get squishy and sweaty on runs here in the Southeast when it's humid. And honestly, in that 12-hour run, I don't recall once feeling a squishy foot. It was hot. It was in the mid 80s. It wasn't incredibly humid, but it was pretty humid. And I don't recall my feet getting squishy, which is a big deal. So this upper does seem to breathe fairly well. I did do the tissue test, take a look. I put it on low, and the tissue came up a little bit. But when I put it on high, that tissue really went way up. It just shows the breathability for you guys. And it's just, I think these are gonna be a great hot weather shoe. It's not a very plush padded upper. So it's gonna be minimalist and allow your foot to dry, which was awesome. So I was very happy with the breathability of these. So let's talk about the midsole of the Pulsar Trail Pro. It's the Energy Surge midsole foam, which is, from the Pulsar Trail, the Ultra Glide. It's a great midsole foam. It's springy, it's bouncy, it's comfortable for 12 hours. But what's really exciting about this is it also has the energy blade in the midsole, the TPU fork. It's just really gives your foot a little bit of extra pop. It's not a carbon plate. It's not gonna be, like that, but it does give you a little bit of extra response underfoot, which is really nice, especially in those long, like 12-hour runs like I just did. It felt good and it helped my foot keep going a little bit more. And with 33 millimeters of foam in the back and 27 millimeters in the front, like I said, for that 6 millimeter drop, it's plenty of protection underfoot. 12 hours, my feet were pretty comfortable the whole way. I never had any real foot fatigue, never once felt any rocks poking up. It was a fairly rocky course in places and definitely some good roots on the course. And I never really had any issue with that. As far as the comfort goes of that midsole, it's obviously I just wore it in a 12-hour race, so it was pretty good. I could see the midsole portion being, plenty comfortable for a 100-mile race, in my opinion. It just works really well. This Energy Surge foam is fantastic, and I feel that they've done a little bit of revision to it since like the Ultra Glide. I don't feel that this is going to break down at the same time as those have been known to do. I think this is going to go a bit longer, be a bit more durable. Time will tell, but so far I'm very excited about this midsole. Moving on to the outsole of the Pulsar Trail Pro, it's their Contra MA grip rubber, a pretty good compound. Again, the lugs are 3.5 millimeters in depth, so they're not super aggressive, but the way that they're designed it works really well. So the front of the lugs is sloped just a little bit, but the rear of the front lugs is straight down. It's pretty aggressive. And I think that's designed to give you a bit better grip when you're going uphill. Let's say you're either running, hiking uphill, and you're towing off. That straight edge of that lug is just gonna dig into the ground, give you good traction. The same for the heel, it's opposite. So the sloped part is towards the rear of the shoe, but the straighter, jagged edge is towards the front of the shoe. So if you're going downhill, it's gonna dig in, help your foot not to slide out. And honestly, throughout that whole 12-hour race, there were some sections that were really dry. There were some kind of slightly muddy sections down by the lake. And this did great. I never had any kind of traction issues, never had a foot slip out from under me at all. So it works really well. So the Contra MA rubber has been really nice. I am seeing a little bit of wear on the rear already. And again, this only has about 58 miles to them. So I'm not sure the durability of these and how long they would last if you do a fair amount of concrete running, you know, maybe to the trail, you're running on a road or a greenway, something like that. So I'll keep an eye on the wear, see if it increases a little bit more. But I think durability wise for this outsole, I mean, clearly 350, 400 miles shouldn't be a problem for the outsole, and maybe a little bit further. So the price of the Pulsar Trail Pro is $160. It's probably an okay price for this shoe. It does have the TPU fork in there, Energy Surge midsole. It's a lighter weight racing shoe, you know, per se. You can do your daily miles in these. You can do races in them. So, you know, that's an okay price, I would say. But the bottom line of the Pulsar Trail Pro, who is this for? What would you wear it for? You know, honestly, I think anybody can benefit from this shoe. I kind of see this being the racing partner to the training partner of the Pulsar Trail, because that is a little bit of a heavier shoe. I'll do a full comparison of those two shoes coming out in just a little while. You know, honestly, I think this for a 50K, the Pulsar Trail Pro is gonna be fantastic. A 50 miler, it's pretty good. 100 miler, the only issue I have with the shoe that makes me hesitate for the 100 miler is that medial arch that I talked about being a little bit narrow, at least for my foot, and the comfort of the heel cup, like I mentioned, and also this outer portion of the shoe. It could just be a little more padded and a little more comfortable. If I'm gonna wear it for 100 miles, it's gotta be pretty comfortable. So let me know below if you have tried the Salomon Pulsar Trail Pro. Maybe you've tried the Pulsar Trail as well. Let me know your thoughts. What you thought of the difference between this one and the other one. If you like this shoe a lot, you know, I definitely like it. I'll continue to wear it for sure. So thank you to Salomon for sending the Pulsar Trail Pro. Thank you to you all for liking, subscribing to the channel, commenting down below. Don't forget, you can also check out down below some merchandise if you want to pick up a shirt like this or maybe a hat. There's plenty of other things out there too. So thank you all so much for watching. I do really appreciate you all so much. If you haven't already taken a look at the Pulsar Trail review, on your screen on this side, you can take a look at that. Go ahead and check it out. Great shoes. And then on this side, I'll throw up a playlist of some other shoe reviews to check out as well. See plenty of other things in there. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you on the next one.